Howdy y'all, how are you doing? So in this video I want to talk a bit about my experience when it came to connecting to Lilith for the first time. Early 2013, I was graduating high school, honey. I've just had a very close relationship with her since then. And it's kind of crazy to think about because I've never had to talk about it before. Well, I never talked about it publicly before, or everything I've had when it came to my spiritual experiences kind of just kept to myself. I'm starting to share those experiences now, so if that interests you, then keep on watching, darling. Lilith, I've been working with, I've had a pretty close relationship with for about 8 years now, going on 9. And I even have her sigil tattooed, sigil and N tattooed, among with other deities. Her sigil and N tattooed onto my left arm as well, okay? This is Lilith's sigil, and then her N is listed or tattooed across. Now, you don't I'm not saying you have to. First and foremost, let me just say, darlings, you do not have to get a deity's sigil tattooed onto you to be working with them. And just because you have their sigil tattooed on you does not mean that they are automatically like your matron. For me personally, I feel it's my own way of expression, and that's just my own art. A lot of my spiritual path working involves just deity work in general. And so when I connect to certain deities very intimately, I just choose to do that. It's my choice, you know? Lilith was the very first demon, I would say, that I connected to, and I guess we'll just get into that story, honey. Back in 2013, how old was I, darling? I was 17 years old at that point. At this time, I was in a cult, honey. Now, that's gonna be in a video in of itself, honey, on how I got into being in a cult. Wasn't intentional whatsoever. Wasn't trying to be in no kind of cult, honey. I don't regret that time though, just because I got to be exposed to a lot of personalities, a lot of people with different belief systems, and I feel like that was just pretty fun to experience. And during this time when I was in the cult, I met an interesting individual. Not gonna say names because names aren't relevant, honey. I believe Google Hangouts, I don't know if they're still a thing nowadays. And I was hanging out with a group of people, and these people, y'all, all came from different types of belief systems. There was someone who was heavily into Buddhism. I don't know how that ended up working out for him, honey. There were people who were primarily connecting to archangels who came from a more Christian upbringing. There was just an eclectic group. And then there was one individual who was into the darker arts, who was into the goetic demons and just the left-handed path in general. Now, with him, he actually couldn't receive any type of messages. He couldn't connect to these deities that he was working with, and so he always asked other people in the group at the time to help him out and to relay messages to him. And I was one of those victims, unfortunately, that fell into this trap of relaying a lot of messages to him. Obviously, I have my own personal opinions on why this individual is working. I feel as if everyone experiences energy in a different way. For me personally, I usually will experience energies usually in the cooler tones, the cooler temperatures rather. So what I noticed right away when connecting with her energy was she was the first experience that I had of experiencing an energy that wasn't extremely cool temperature. Her energy actually was very warm to me, which is at this time, I never experienced before. And so it immediately got my attention because I started experiencing a new sensation. Wasn't afraid at this time or anything, but it was such a fascinating experience, you guys. The best way that I can explain her energy in a physical way, something that you guys can reference, would be as if, imagine just going through the woods. There's just a bunch of brush, a bunch of trees, branches, just leaves everywhere around you, and you're just walking through it. No interruption. You're just feeling all these different sensations, these different plants rubbing on your skin. That was exactly what it felt like. It felt as if my energy was being almost entranced in this new, while I was still obviously in my room, I felt almost as if I was like, my energetic body was just like transferred to a whole new setting. It was very surreal. Immediately I started smiling, kind of like how I'm smiling now, just because is something about her energy I just always have appreciated and enjoyed. Started seeing some type of figure form into my third eye. And at this point, when it comes to everyone, again, everyone has different psychic gifts and impressions, right? The way that they translate energies. So for me at this time, I was very good at getting images, impressions. It would be almost as if someone were to be playing like a quick, like 6-second video clip in my head for me to just see. That's just completely out of my own thoughts, because I don't usually think in terms of videos and images with my brain. I always just see words. So it was very distinct, the images and the visions that I was getting. And I immediately started seeing some type of figure form. And at this time, keep in mind, you guys, I was still pretty young and new to working with deities. So there was a certain block that I had where I couldn't fully see beings fully manifest in my mind's eye. I couldn't see the full thing just because at the time, I had to work through my own fears and break down those walls. But for her, she still managed to come through enough so that I could see her face. And I noticed her eyes the most. It was at that time that I knew that was an experience that was just for me and Lilith. And I knew if it wasn't for this individual setting this up, that I wouldn't have been able to do this. And I kind of felt in some way that I was being prepped to getting ready to connect with her. And so it felt like forever, but it was probably only back then. Not that I was intimidated by the idea of demons and the left-handed path and all that, just because, you know, all these things, all these belief systems are just written based off of some human's perspective, some human's bias. So I always took everything with a grain of salt, as I still am now with my spiritual experiences. I'm very much so taking things at face value and taking the experiences I have when it comes to astral projecting, honey, and all of my stuff. That's where my core beliefs are. Now, to answer some of the quick questions or thoughts that some people probably would have when they first hear about this, is that one, no, Lilith wants nothing to do with my soul, honey. That's such a myth, darling. It's not a thing. There's never been a single point in my time with connecting to Lilith that I ever feared for my life or ever felt as if I wasn't, there's a mosquito here, darling, felt ever as if my life was in danger or if I was doing any type of harm. It is quite literally the opposite. Lilith has really empowered me in a lot of ways, and it's gonna have to be a lot more than just in this one specific video, really, on talking about the multitude of ways that her and I have just worked together throughout the years. But she is a connection that I highly suggest anyone who is looking to feel a lot more sure about themselves. When it comes to physically, when it comes to just who they are, not even just physically, darling, just who they are as a person, who they are from like a molecular level. She gives you just this sense of, I don't even want to say she gives you anything, she just helps you discover your own sense of identity and really challenges you. And I feel like it's one of those things. I say this about Libras when it comes to my weekly tarot readings, y'all. But it's like, I always say Libras know another Libra. But I also feel as if someone who works with Lilith can always kind of tell someone else who works with Lilith just because of the energy that they present themselves with. It's just, there's a thing there that you can't get anywhere else. And yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to be doing a lot more videos talking about Lilith, maybe giving some tips and advice when it comes to working with her and talking a little bit more in depth about some of my experiences with her. But I guess that's only that matters if y'all are interested in hearing about it. So if you are interested in hearing about this kind of stuff, please let me know, because I have many experiences to be sharing, darling, right? I'm not used to sharing any or talking out loud any of my spiritual experiences, so it's kind of nice to have this outlet. And so if you guys are interested in hearing about it, then I'll just keep making videos, honey. Yeah, if you have any questions when it comes to Lilith or anything of that matter, let me know in the comments below, darling. And yeah, I'm gonna close this video out. And if you haven't heard it today, honey, I see you, I hear you, and I love you so much. Bye, y'all.